with one of our colleagues who was a bank man, and he talked to the bank, and I must say the bank was fairly understanding.
So it was a good fiscal and cooperative union.
It was, and we rarely would have turned down a loan because of shortage of cash.
The time I came in, it had been established, and the savings were coming very close to £200,000, which was an enormous figure. Considering that most of us born in the 30s, we came on the back of difficult times when things in Ireland were certainly not looking bright. To have this organisation that, because of individual people's efforts, remember it was totally voluntary, and that there was no state involvement in it in any kind. So there had to be something that was motivating people of talent and ability to stay with the credit union as voluntary workers, either as board members or supervisors, etc.
The amazing thing was the trust that people of Newry put in credit union right from the outset. And speaking of Jerry's mention of £200,000, I recall with Arthur Morgan sitting on the stone bridge, as you know it, talking that the previous Friday evening the savings had passed £6,000 and debating what we may be able to do if it reached 10,000.
So the formula is right. Voluntary effort, pooled savings, low interest borrowing, a highly professional staff, and a movement in Newry based on the proud tradition of self-help to overcome adversity. The way ahead is clear. The past is for building on, and a new era begins. On an autumn evening in 2001, Newry Credit Union's new chapter of progress in the modern world began. Members were gathering for an event that marked the beginning of a new era, a moment in history created by the combined efforts of all who went before. These people possess a pride of ownership and know well that Credit Union in Newry, in its fine new premises, is set fair for further success based on the movement's sacred principles of caring and sharing.
Our journey to this point has taken almost 40 years, from rented rooms in Merchants Quay with an asset base of 12.5p, half a crown, 2 and sixpence, whatever way you want to define it, and 3 members, to the current membership of 13,000 members and rising, and an asset base of some £29 million. What a remarkable achievement. One man who gave outstanding service to Newry Credit Union, and I mention him because I had the privilege of knowing him personally, was Eddie Mackle. Eddie gave me my first job as a message boy in O'Hagan and O'Hare's, chemist. I had to pretend to know how to ride the large bicycle from which I subsequently fell off and into the flower beds around the green clock. I hadn't got very far before Eddie realised that I told a little white lie about my bicycle skills. I still tell the old little white lie. Eddie also provided me with some significant direction on my own educational and career development needs at a time when it was more difficult to move into third level education from a working class background from which I came. It's very important not to forget our roots, for it is here that the values that will sustain us in later life are formed. Eddie and many other credit union directors helped Newry people to cherish and realise strong community values. He gave much to the community through credit union, and I remember his contribution with affection and pride today.
Seamus Mallon MP and member of the Northern Ireland Legislative Assembly spoke with warmth and passion about the movement he believes transformed the lives of the people of Newry.
There are people here from almost every part of Ireland, north and south, with a common aim, a common purpose, and that purpose is simple. So complex in its simplicity that it worked, and that is the concept of people helping themselves. The very mention of loan sharks is almost words from the past. yet at a period of time they were like leeches, actually feeding off the entire community. Another word was used which is absolutely crucial to the credit union, and that's the concept of human dignity. The capacity of a community to help every single person in that community to be a proud human being. And you know, that is something that will never be measured in the amount of savings or the amount of loans, but in that type of generosity of spirit that the credit union has been able to instill in communities and with communities.
Newry and Mourne Council Chairman Davy Hyland had praise for the wisdom of Newry Credit Union's founding fathers.
When the founding fathers, including Peter Connolly and Arthur Morgan, first met some 4 decades ago, I wonder, could they have envisaged the massive impact that they could have on this town and its citizens? Today, Newry Credit Union is one of the biggest in the whole of Ireland. It has over 13,000 members, assets of some 29 million, and last year approved loans of some 11.5 million. My wife, my 2 children and myself are paid up members of the credit union. Like many, many other families in the town. And we recognise that the credit union is not simply an organisation geared towards the lending of money. Rather, it is a way of life, a means by which individuals, by joining together, can help not only themselves, but their community at large.
The most authentic creations, the things that the Newry people themselves have created, are institutions like the credit union, Newry and Mourne Cooperative, and the whole range of small businesses that have sprung up in the town here in this last generation or so. This is what the Newry people, by their own money and by their own management and by their own voluntary effort, have built. This credit union, or the credit union in general, but here in the town, is a people's institution. It wasn't flown in from anywhere else, and by the same token it won't fly back to anywhere else. It's of the people of Newry, it's built in the soil of this town, in the character of the people, and for that the Newry people, and particularly the members of the credit union, can feel a real sense of pride.
Charlie Smith is Newry's face of brilliant comedy. He's a man at the heart of the community, and he loves and is totally committed to credit union.
Well, what can one say about this tremendous night here that when I think of being a Newry man and knowing what it was like, as I said, over 40 years ago, when I first went into the credit union, the whole staff stood up and sounded like Dr. Paisley, and they all shouted, "No, no, no!" And that was over in Caulfield Place as such, and all I thought, I was only in to get my hair cut, I thought it was the barbers. And thank goodness that I've kept my hair since that. Well, you never saw a baldy ass, did you, Peter?
The members mingled and spoke of their memories. It was a time of pride in what had been achieved.
Louis, there's stories told about you being involved at the beginning.
First and foremost, very much so. Tony Campbell, myself and John McAnulty, John McCluskey, Eddie McAlord and Marshall and Arthur and all the boys. And some of the stories we told about some of when we went out on the old disciplinary committee to look after the old customers that weren't ponying, you know. Huge stories, but I wouldn't want to tell them now.
What was it made you feel that this was going to succeed?
Well, I knew the old money lender boys. Do you remember old Goldie in town? Do you remember the old horrible guy from Portadown used to come up with a big Jaguar every Friday? Cleaned the town out on a Friday evening. How do you get rid of him?
The credit union grew out of the people's own work, out of their own saving, their own planning, their own management, and it's an authentic growth of Newry town. You know, the people made this. It didn't come from anywhere else. It wasn't given to them. The concept was all right, but the actual money and so on was the money of the people and their own planning and management of it.
This town and this council area is an area on the move. There are more and more jobs coming in, more and more developments taking place, more and more retail, and we're now getting the unemployment figures, which were the scourge of the town and area for a long time, well down to manageable figures.
They were sitting on the first day that it was founded, Roland. They were sitting